Hello folks, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to check out the best-selling hard rock and heavy metal albums of all time. And it's a bit tricky to find the exact numbers, but the Recording Industry Association of America, also known as RIAA, are the ones that certifies these albums, so they are the best source for keeping track of record sales. And all of these numbers comes from their database, and I can put a link to it in the description if you want to search their database yourself, but they don't keep track of every band out there, especially not albums that sold less than 500,000 copies. But before we check out our first list here, make sure that you guys hit that like button if you found this video interesting. It definitely helps my channel grow. And now it's time to check out the top 10 best-selling hard rock albums of all time, according to RIAA. And the best-selling hard rock album is AC/DC's Back in Black. It was the band's first album with Brian Johnson after Bon Scott passed away, and it sold incredibly well, as you can see, 25 times platinum, which means 25 million copies. And it had hit songs like Hell's Bells, Back in Black, and You Shook Me All Night Long. In second place we have Led Zeppelin's fourth studio album, Led Zeppelin 4, and it had hit songs like Black Dog and of course Stairway to Heaven, and it came out back in 1971. In third place we have a fairly modern release in Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction from 1987, and it has a special meaning to me since it was the very first CD that I bought back when I was a kid. And Appetite for Destruction includes many of their biggest hits like Welcome to the Jungle, Paradise City, and Sweet Child of Mine. And in fourth place we have Boston from 1976, and this is not really an album that I ever cared for, but More Than a Feeling was a monster hit from this record. And in fifth place we have another album from Led Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti, and this was a double album, and the classic song Kashmir was on this one. In sixth place we have Metallica's Black Album, and this is one of the more recent albums on this list. Metallica's Black Album had tracks like Enter Sandman, Sad But True, The Unforgiven and Nothing Else Matters, and it went platinum 16 times over. After that we have Meatloaf with Bat Out of Hell, Pearl Jam's 10, Bon Jovi's Slippery When Wet, and Def Leppard's Hysteria, and that's the top 10 best-selling hard rock albums of all time. But this list goes down to 20, so let's check out some other multi-million selling records. And we have a couple of more Led Zeppelin albums here, Led Zeppelin 2, Houses of the Holy, and Led Zeppelin 1. And Def Leppard, Van Halen, Aerosmith, AC/DC and ZZ Top also had a few albums that sold very well. And now it's time to check out the best-selling heavy metal albums of all time, according to RIAA. And to define heavy metal, I decided to only include bands that had a page on the Metal Archives. So if they weren't on there, then I excluded them. And this list is completely dominated by Metallica, with the top 4 spots here. The Black Album sold incredibly well, and maybe it wasn't the metal songs that drove the sales of that album, but there were a few heavier songs on that album as well. And then we have the 3 thrash albums, Justice, Puppets and Ride the Lightning, that all sold very well, especially after Metallica made it big in the late 80s and early 90s. MÖTLEY CRÜE was also huge during the late 80s, and Dr. Feelgood was their best-selling album. And we also had Quiet Riot's Metal Health and Garage Inc., Metallica's cover album. And Ozzy Osbourne's solo debut sold better than anything he previously did with Black Sabbath, including Paranoid that enters our top 10 list here. Skid Row's self-titled album also sold very well, thanks to repeated airings on MTV. And between 11th and 20th place we have a lot of albums from MÖTLEY CRÜE and Ozzy Osbourne. And these albums sold around 3 to 4 million copies each. Metallica's debut album Kill 'Em All is also here, and I'm happy to see QUEENSRYCHE enter our top 20 list here with the album Empire. And we also have Scorpions and Twisted Sister on this list. I also managed to find some double platinum albums in the RIAA archives, which means that these albums sold above 2 million copies. We have Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance, and they were of course metal legends, but they were never amongst the best-selling bands out there. Pantera's vulgar display of power sold well, despite being a rather extreme album. And here are some other classic metal and hard rock albums that I managed to find in the archives. And it's clear that bands like Europe, RATT and Poison outsold bands like Slayer, Anthrax and Megadeth. Iron Maiden was surprisingly low with 1 million copies sold of their Number of the Beast. And Rush sold 5 million copies of their Moving Pictures. And here's a bunch of Black Sabbath, Judas Priest and Anthrax albums that all sold between 500,000 to 1 million copies. Dream Theater's Images and Words sold 500,000, just like Judas Priest's Painkiller. And here we have some Megadeth, Kiss, Accept, Twisted Sister and Slayer albums. And it's quite interesting to see that a legendary band like Slayer didn't sell that much records. Slayer's complete discography sold about as much as one of the best-selling glam metal records from the late 80s. So the thrash bands didn't sell as much records as the glam bands did back then, but it's not all about cash either. I bet that there's more people that genuinely care for Slayer than some random 80s hairband out there that outsold Slayer. And it's of course hard to say exactly how many records all these bands sold, and I don't think that anyone truly knows the real numbers. And I have for example seen people say that AC/DC's Back in Black sold 50 million copies, but it's only certified to have sold 25, so take this for what it is, and go and check out the RIAA archives if you found this interesting. And of course leave a like and subscribe with the bell notifications turned on, so you won't miss out when I post other metal videos here on the channel. And let me know what you guys thought of this. Were you surprised by any of the albums? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. And if you feel like supporting my work, like these fine gentlemen, then I'd suggest that you go and drop me a few dollars on Patreon, or go and grab yourself a cool looking shirt at the Ruthless metal store. And as always, I'm on Facebook, Spotify and Discord, and you can find all the links listed down below. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye bye.